Hey, what are you doing here? What? Oh, you came to learn how to brighten up some photos? Awesome. Well, let me enlighten you. Come on in. Hello everyone, it's your favorite nephew with the camera, Gabe here. I'm currently in Seoul visiting friends in this traditional style house in Korea called a Hanok. I've been learning a lot of things about Korean culture and going out and seeing some views, and I thought I'd share little pieces of Korea with you today. So here are 5 lighting tips for iPhone photography. Let's go out and shoot something. Welcome to the Hanok. Behind me, you can see the kitchen, and in front of us, you can see this wonderful courtyard. This is actually perfect for our next tip, which is adjusting brightness on your iPhone. I'm shooting with the iPhone 13 Pro right now, but by no means do you need an iPhone 13 Pro to take good iPhone photos. I'm just gonna square up and see if we can shoot this. Oh, right here, the door is like perfect symmetrical parts of the courtyard that you can see, and it's already made a natural frame within a frame. If you don't know what frame within a frame is, we've done that in deep discussion in our last video that you can catch in the top right corner there. If you need to stop and pause this video, feel free to watch that one and then come back. But I think this is perfect. We're gonna square up here. And if you're a senior, I think this would be beneficial if you have a chair so that you don't strain your back, like I'm bending over right now. Very good. Right in front of this door here. We're in a 0.5 lens, and to tap for adjustments for darkness and brightness, let's see if we can just adjust our image real quick. We're going to tap the lightest part of our image in the top right. You see like there's this window here. I'll tap that and tap the darkest parts of our image. You'll see like slight changes here and there. What you can also do is you can manually change your brightness adjustment by tapping, and you see like there's this sun icon to the right of the box. You can hold that, drag it down, and your image becomes darker. Drag it up, and your image becomes lighter. So if you want to manually adjust for brightness that way, you can always do that. This is most common if you have very challenging situations like this, where you have a nice silhouette of the door frame, but the sky here is so bright that you lose some of the cloud detail if there are clouds or sky. So what you can also do is just tap the lightest parts, and then it'll bring that back for you. If it doesn't bring it back, you can also just drag down just a little bit. Yeah, there you go, perfect. So you have a nice even adjustment. I'm gonna go ahead and take a photo right there. Perfect. We're also gonna go over this way to see if we can get a more silhouette shot of the window here. Now you can see so much more of their beautiful courtyard. I'm just gonna bring this chair over. Take a nice seat. Ah, very cool. So I'm gonna tap the lightest parts of my image again. Tap it, drag it down, take a picture. Oh, so gorgeous, super nice. I'm gonna tap the darkest parts, see what happens. Nice, it's bringing up a lot of the shadows of our image there. We'll also take a picture so you can compare and contrast as well. Tap again, drag down. Nice, even exposure, perfect. For our next tip, we're gonna go over better angles for selfies. So we're gonna demonstrate this with this swivel chair, and we're just gonna demonstrate the type of lighting that affects your face as we're going around and taking our selfie here. So I'll bring up my camera here. Very good. And as you can see already, this front angle from the light of the windows in the courtyard just really exposes my face really well. When I turn just a little bit, you can see that there's a shadow that's like creating on the left side of my face there. And that's nice and flattering for a little bit more dramatic effect. If you want something more dramatic, ooh, you can see that the right side or the left side is a lot more dark compared to the right. And then we're gonna go for something really drastic, which is a big, big no-no when you're taking a selfie, is look at the windows now. So you'll see that the windows are just so blown out because it's so bright. And we're gonna try to like bring the highlights back like we did with our last tip with adjusting the brightness. We're gonna tap with the lightest part of our image. There we go, and it's still fighting it. So I'm gonna just drag it down a little bit more to bring back the highlights. Very good, so we brought down our highlights, but now that you can see, we're just totally in shadow, and that's never a good flattering selfie. When I try to bring back the shadows, tapping here, you'll see that, whoa, we're blowing out our image right here for our selfie. So it's a huge no-no to have windows behind you when you're taking selfies. This is also a good tip if you're on Zoom calls, FaceTiming your family, to never position a window behind you when you're FaceTiming them. Just bring back the shadows maybe a bit, there you go. Or bring back the highlights, and it still doesn't look as great. But as we just rotate around again, very good. You'll see that there's a shadow on my face now on my right side, and it's exposed on my left, which is pretty flattering as well. There's a mild window right here that's giving a little bit of exposure, but you can still see the little hashes of like the Korean design on it, which makes it still really distinguishable. So that's still pretty good. The best type of lighting is obviously going to be the ones that are a little bit more in front. You'll see that's nice and even. You just need to be careful that you don't introduce shadows here. You can see like this shadow that I'm casting from my phone on my shirt from the arm is causing a little bit of shadow as I'm rotating. So that's the only trouble with front lighting. So the best tip that I can give is to actually pivot yourself just a little bit to a 45-degree angle. You'll see that's nice and flattering light on your right side, a little bit of shadow on your left, and you can take a selfie in this way. Very good. And we've made it to the kitchen. Our next tip is about lighting for top-down photography shots. When I was a professional photographer in the US, I do a lot of product photography, and a lot of those shots are actually top-down photography shots just like this one. But it's really difficult if you're shooting in public places like restaurants and cafes, because their light fixtures are usually in the ceiling, best used to just light up the restaurant and make it more ambient, but it's actually pretty terrible for food photography, and I'll show you why. Here we have like this hard light from the ceiling here. I'm just gonna go ahead and reach over and take a top-down shot. And as you can see, there are 2 plus signs also on my iPhone here. The best way to level your shot is if you can match them together like this. If I can get it just right, perfect. And I'll take a shot. But as you can see in this shot, you'll see that when I'm moving my hand around, there's like this distracting shadow that's cast from the highlights here onto my phone and then onto our subject, which is the oranges. And that's not very flattering at all. So my best recommendation for better top-down photography shots is using side lights. And you can accomplish this by shooting next to a window. Let's try it. Ooh, okay. We've identified our window. I brought just a little table here to put our subject. Mustn't forget our orange subjects. Right down there. Perfect. And now, as we're looking at this shot, I'm gonna put my phone over there. Ooh, so much better. You can see that the side lighting of this nice window from the courtyard is just shining on these oranges. On the right side of these oranges, there's these nice highlights. On the left, there's like these nice shadows cast. It's very flattering. Nothing from the hard lights that's casting a shadow from my phone on these oranges makes them any distracting. I'm gonna go ahead and just zoom in a little bit closer with my hand and then put these plus marks together and take a photo. Ooh, nice, very good. And that's our lighting for top-down photography. Hello everyone, just want to remind you that if you've missed our last video, you can catch it right here. We went over 5 foundational iPhone photography tips that we won't necessarily be covering in this video today, but feel free to pause this video right now so that you can catch up and review on this one. And don't worry, we'll be here when you get back. If you feel like you're gonna miss that next video in the future, please consider subscribing and hitting that bell icon for more future videos and tips like this in the future. So for now, we're gonna move on to our next tip. Okay, I've packed up my cameras. I think for this next tip, we're just gonna go venture out finally into Seoul, see a little bit of the sights, and I'll see you there. Yeah, sorry. You can come too. That train was kind of stuffy, wasn't it? And we're finally here in Yeouido Park in Seoul. And we're in luck because it is cherry blossom season. All these cherry blossoms are finally in bloom. And this is actually the perfect backdrop for our 4th tip, which is AEAF focus. Let's try it out. So our next tip is AEAF focus, which stands for auto exposure and autofocus. So what you can do to accomplish that is on your phone, previously when you tap, you can get your sun icon here to adjust the brightness. But now what you can do is if you hold the box, it'll activate this AEAF lock, which means that this will have it in focus regardless of where you are in your frame, and also it won't change any of the lighting. So if I move a little bit back and forth, you'll see that it's actually moving out of focus because this line of sight here is where we actually held it down. I'm just gonna hold it down one more time. There you go. So now that we have this in focus, everything else in the background is blurry. And it's really cool to see all the cherry blossoms, all the context of the flowers that are blooming in the background, but we're still focusing on this cherry blossom here. We're gonna go ahead and just snap a photo of this one. And likewise, if you don't want this in the foreground and you just want the background to be focused on instead, let's go ahead and just tap and then hold focus. Now that part of the photo is locked in autofocus and auto exposure, and let's go ahead and take a photo there as well. Awesome, those are gonna look amazing. So for our last tip, we're actually gonna do a tip that was recommended to me by a friend that I met in Sapporo. So Dennis, thank you for this last one. We're gonna go over what's called long exposure shots. Long exposure in general is a pretty advanced skill to learn for a general photographer, let alone an iPhone photographer. So just bear with me a little bit because we're gonna go through a lot of steps in this process. So in order to get really good long exposure shots, you actually need to be in an area that has a lot of sweeping movement. So that's water, that's traffic here, which is right by the road, which is probably why there's a lot of road noise here. Another way is you need to have a phone that's really stable. Long exposure shots really pick up on movement, even the movement of your hands. So if you're an older person or someone that just quivers a little bit, especially after me after a long day, I'm probably gonna be shaking a little bit after holding a camera for so long. Same with an iPhone. You're gonna need a little bit of stabilization with a tripod and a phone holder here. So that's one. So that's for stabilization. Another thing you need to put on your phone is live photo mode. So there's this button here. It's like a dotted circle that's on two small single solid circles there. And this will enable what's called live mode. So live is off right here. If I turn it on, it says live. Live photos are iPhone's small video portraits. So it's about 1.5 seconds of video that records your audio and your video in a photo, which is pretty cool. And it's super important to have when you're doing long exposures on an iPhone. Another thing you need to know is in order to keep your phone still, we're actually going to have to play with a few settings with our timer. So this little caret arrow here, you're going to tap that and it's going to give you a lot of options. Here you see that there's a live option already. We're going to scroll down a little bit and there's a clock here, which is our self timer. This is actually perfect for this situation. So you don't have to go in and touch your phone and take your photo and it'll actually shake the camera. So this is a good way to actually start your timer without you having to actually touch and move your phone. So we have our stabilization on our tripod, we have live mode activated, we have our timer activated. Now I think we're ready to take our photo. All right, we have some movement. All right, we're gonna go ahead and press it. 2, 1. Nice, wait a couple seconds. And then you're gonna click on your photo here and it'll take you right directly to your photo that you just took. Right now it shows you a still photo, but it's actually able to be edited since we did a long exposure. And you'll see that this, if you've activated it, it's live. You'll have a drop-down menu here where you can change a lot of settings. One of them is loop, where it'll loop your photo into a video. You'll see it here. It'll just keep looping in the way that it was shown. Bounce. This makes it so that the first part where you recorded and the last part just kind of bounce between each other. You see it's going forward and reverse. And then finally, long exposure. Get ready for this one. Wow, look at that. So you can see with this long exposure shot, we just enabled this shot to just capture that little bit of movement, those streaks of those vehicles, as well as the streaks of the people walking on the sidewalk. And I think that's really cool with the backdrop of the city here during sunset, as well as the cherry blossoms. I know that's a lot, but feel free to rewind if you ever need to review any of these steps, and you'll be perfect at long exposure shots. And those are my top 5 iPhone photography lighting tips. Now you can go out and share better photos that are lit with your family and friends. Are there other tips like this that you would like to learn from me as well? Please consider liking and subscribing and leaving a comment down below if you'd like to learn anything else like this in the future. Just like our friend Dennis, he wanted to learn about long exposure shots. I was happy to help him and teach you guys as well. Thank you so much again for stopping by to visit your favorite nephew with a camera. Until next time, I'll see you later. Bye!